It's time for Bringing the Heat with Trey Lyle.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome on into another edition of Bringing the Heat with Trey Lyle and the aforementioned Trey Lyle. Our guest this week will be the one, the only Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Danny Peters was able to sit down and talk with him this past weekend at Nashville after a fourth-place finish, mind you. Danny was sat down, had a great conversation with the man, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., who now heads into the Inferno.
Boy, Ricky, 6/1000ths of a second. What was your take on that final, really half lap?
Felt really good. We had our, Chevy teammates behind us, and I was hoping Kyle wasn't going to push the 6 that hard. I knew the 24 was probably going to try and, get to the line there, but man, this team has put a lot of hard work in. Obviously, we haven't won since the 523, and
I'm here with Ricky Stenhouse. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Good, thank you. You're honoring Kyle Busch this weekend with your paint scheme. Just talk to me a little bit about how that came to life and the paint scheme itself and some of the things you're doing.
Yeah, it was kind of a little bit last minute on, NOS Energy drink sponsoring this Nashville race. And, they've been a long-time sponsor of Kyle's, and he won a lot of races for them. And so, we both kicked up the idea of doing something to honor Kyle. And, it just worked out that they were sponsoring this weekend where Kyle won a lot in that car and, obviously smashed the guitars and things like that. So, it just all worked out, and it was a kind of a rush from the team and everybody to get, it all pulled together, but definitely happy with how it turned out and honored to drive it this week. It's, I like our NOS Energy drink, regular paint scheme, but, this one's definitely very special to get behind the wheel of, and hope we can run towards the front with it and do it solid.
Would you smash a guitar if you won?
If we won in Kyle's honor, I would definitely do that.
You would do that?
No, I thought it was cool, and Kyle paid for another one to get done, and it was Kyle put a lot of thought into that one. It wasn't just hey, I'm going to destroy this guitar, and he definitely went through the whole process to get another guitar painted and pay for it and things like that. So I thought it was a great moment.
Looking back, obviously, with your All-Star moment with him, it's kind of iconic now in NASCAR folklore. Like, how do you look back at that now? I mean, obviously, you guys are friends, but we're friends. But
yeah, Kyle and I really only had, I guess, really that run in. He wasn't happy with me when I, spun him at Daytona in 2018. I think it was, obviously not on purpose, but we only really had one, major run in, and that was it in the All-Star race. But after that, I think we were on great terms. We let that simmer down for a little bit. We talked about it and moved on, and everything was good. So, I raced with him for a long time, chased him forever, especially in the Nationwide Series back in the day when we were contending for wins each and every week. And, he was in his own car, the Gibbs cars. He was always one that you had to beat. And so a lot of fun racing with him. And, he definitely set the bar really, really high for all of us. And so that was fun battling with him. But, yeah, just that was water under the bridge, fairly soon after that.
It's been amazing to see all the tributes and sort of seeing how much Kyle touched so many drivers throughout the garage. Just talk a little bit about that from your perspective.
Yeah, I think it's just the first time that any of us has been really put in this position to lose a current driver, that is racing with you each and every weekend right now. And, and so, we've all felt a major loss when, Biffle passed away, but he wasn't in the garage every week. And so, to have somebody that, you're talking on driver intro stage with the week before, or, like for Kyle and I, we talked for 30 minutes at the Dover airport after the All-Star race about old times, about energy drinks, about, what the sport's going to look like in, 8 years, 7 years, how the cars are driving. I mean, we talked about, anything and everything about Brexton racing. And so, it hit us all hard. It hit all the crew guys hard, the teams, the fans. I mean, the fans haven't had to go through something like this, obviously, since, Dale Sr. And so, Charlotte was a tough weekend, and, you still feel so bad for Samantha, Brexton, Lennox, Kyle's parents, his brother, just everybody that, was with him day to day, and hopefully that there's a lot of people in this garage that are going to step up and do everything you can for that family.
15 years for you in the Cup Series now, 485 races, and if I do my math right and I add up all your other races, this will be your 600th start across all 3 NASCAR series this weekend. Now, my math might not be great, but I think that's right.
Okay.
I mean, talk a little bit about that. I mean, the longevity of that. I mean, an amazing run that you've had. You must be really proud.
I'm proud of the career that I've been able to put together so far. Yeah, you always want to win more. You want to be in contention for wins. But I know the places I'm at and the places I've been and where I've been in this sport. And I'm proud of the wins that we have. Daytona 500 was huge for myself and this team. Again, winning in 2024. At Talladega was another huge win as well. And I look back on my career and definitely the Nationwide Series stuff. I felt really good about. We battled for wins against Cup guys that were winning on Sundays. In Cup level equipment, battling against us, and felt like we went toe to toe with them for 2 years of just hard racing. My 2012 season is probably what I'm probably most proud of. We won 6 races. I think we finished second 9 times, and I think 7 or 8 of those were 2 Cup guys coming down, and so 2 championships. I felt really good about those years, and the Cup stuff you just plug away. I think where we're at Hyak Motorsports, we're continuing to show a lot of what we're made of. We got 30 employees, 28 employees that work on our race car, and we do a lot with little around here, and so super proud of moments like the Coke 600 last week. We ran in the top 10 all race, had a bad pit stop, but battled back for a 12th place finish and got stage points in every stage. And that's one of the biggest crown jewel events we have, other than the Daytona 500. So for us to go out there and compete like that, says a lot about this race team. And I'm proud of my longevity, and I feel like I still got another 7 or 8 years left in me, as long as we can keep putting runs together like we had last weekend. Keep putting sponsorship together. We got great partners here at Hyak, and hopefully we continue to grow the program.
And speaking of the team, you recently signed a new long-term contract. You'll be approaching almost a decade, right? By the time that contract runs out. So
yeah, it'll be cool. I haven't been. This is the only second team I've been with. I was with Roush Fenway from 2008 to 2019, and now I've been here since 2020. And I really love the family atmosphere of this race team. Like I said, it's we're not going to go out and compete for wins each and every weekend. We know the racetracks that we can go out and compete for wins, and I feel like we do that each and every week at those racetracks that we know we can contend. We know that we're going to have runs like at Charlotte, Bristol, Dover. There's other racetracks that we can run well at, and we know that, and we just try and take advantage of those. And the ones that we struggle at, we just continue to try and improve. But yeah, almost a decade here. By the time this next one runs out, and like I said, hopefully we can continue to push that out a little bit further, and see what happens.
For as long as you've been racing, this is, I think, the first year that you've raced in the truck series. You had 4 starts this year. That must be a lot of fun to race in the trucks.
Yeah, the trucks have been fun. Everybody at NOS Motorsports has been super fun to work with. Cody Efall, that runs that program, he was at Roush, actually in the truck series as a truck chief when I got there in 2008 when I started running the ARCA cars. So I've known Cody for a long time, and they're continuing to build that program up. They got Ross running a lot. They got myself, and SVG ran one, and all the JF Electric guys and Al Neese, and they've put really good race trucks on the racetrack, and I've had a blast. Daytona, Atlanta, we weren't as great at Bristol as what I wanted to be. Charlotte was really fun, and looking forward to a couple more maybe.
Any chance we see you in a Nopes car?
I don't really have anything lined up right now at the moment to run any O'Reilly stuff, but when I watch the races, I think back to the years that I ran, and I definitely would like to get back in one. I want it to be the right situation. I don't want to get in it just to get in it. I want to get in it and go out and have a chance to win. And so hopefully maybe one day we'll put something together.
Last couple of questions. You made a little side appearance on Denny's podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Any chance you'll be back for a full appearance? I know you guys are good buddies.
Yeah, that's up to Denny. I had fun stopping in. I think Denny does a great job with his podcast with Jared and Travis. I've known Jared ever since Denny, got him into the sport, and he's a really good dude. And I feel like, Denny, I've been a great friend of him since. Heck, I don't know. I'd have to really think about it. It's been a long time, and so I really respect what he does and his take on the sport, and feels like he puts a good show out there. So, if he wants me on, I definitely would jump back on.
You had some fun with Cletus this week. Talk to me a little bit about that, and also the T-shirt that you're wearing, the Wolf T-shirt. That was cool.
Yeah, no, that was an old throwback Jeff Gordon shirt that I had found at a vintage shop, and so. Cletus had asked if we wanted to come out. Obviously, a bunch of Chevy drivers come out and run his Corvette. I think Hocevar was sitting in the car when it started raining, so he didn't get to make a run, and a handful of us didn't either. So we jumped in his Cadillac drift car and ran it around, had some fun. So hopefully we can get back and do some drag racing. I hadn't done a ton of drag racing stuff in my past, so watching his Corvette run definitely got me excited to get behind the wheel. We just ran out of time. The rain came in.
And last question, obviously you've won the Daytona 500, so you've won the big one. What would be kind of your top 3 bucket list wins if I was a genie giving you out wish?
The next one would be Bristol Night Race, and then the Coke 600. Those 3 are definitely, or those 2 extras would be by far the next on my list that I would want to win at. But in the Cup Series, I'll take a win wherever I can get them. If it's at Atlanta, Daytona again, Talladega, I don't really care if all my wins are on super speedways. I just want more wins, because I think that looking back throughout my career and just need some more wins. I feel like on the Cup side, and if those are all at super speedways, cool. But I definitely feel like where we're at as a race team, we put together runs like we did last weekend at the Coke 600. There's definitely 1.5 mile racetracks we can win at, and I feel like we can always have a shot to win at Bristol.
Awesome. Well, thanks for your time. Good luck this weekend.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much to all the folks at Hyak Motorsports. Thanks so much to Ricky, and thanks so much to the great chap, Danny Peters, for joining us on, for getting us that interview. Now, let's get to the latest news and notes with What's Still Hot.
What's Still Hot? It's time to upgrade you on the latest news in NASCAR.
Joining me now, Caleb Barnes at Caleb Barnes _. You can hear him typing away vigorously. He's rocking the Team USA kit. Caleb,
ready
good
to
to
go.
see you. He's locking in. And speaking of locking in, Trackhouse has locked in Kevin Magnussen as its newest member of Project 91. They will have the former F1 driver and current FIA World Endurance Championship driver in the 91 at the Cup Series race in San Diego. This was long been the rumor that it was going to be K-Mag, but are you excited to see Project 91 back on the racetrack?
Oh, absolutely. I think maybe, I don't know if it was really talked that at length, but maybe some of the concern with Trackhouse going to the 3-car team and their continued growth was, hey, what's going to happen with this Project 91? Because, Roush ran that 60 for a few races, and then they made that a full-time deal with Ryan Preece. And so it was kind of like, well, was that Project 91? Was that the 3rd-time car? And then SVG taking over full-time? Like, does that mean that they're only going to be their Project 91 is dead? Well, thankfully, it's not dead. So that's exciting. It'll be cool to see how Kevin Magnussen, K-Mag, does, especially, he's got all that experience in kind of the GT, I don't know if I'm trying to think about, it's all the IMSA stuff. So he's been in a bunch of those different cars. I just immediately go to like GT Daytona, but I'm thinking of down the list in the Rolex 24 of the prototypes, the DPIs, that's what they're called. So I'll be curious if any of that translates over very well. I felt like with Catherine Legg, once she's been in the car and gotten comfortable with things, she can put together some pretty good lap times. Now, obviously, I think that 91 is going to be a little bit better than the 78 that Catherine's been in. So it'll be fun to see. Trackhouse, they have high expectations for the road courses. I wonder how much he'll lean on SVG, both like before the race and literally in the race, if they're leaning on each other, if they're racing around each other, if he can keep up with SVG. And then the one thing is, like, Trackhouse, again, the expectations are super high for those road courses. I do wonder if, like, the way their performance has been this year, if there might be maybe just a little bit of concern about maybe not as much speed as they're used to in past years. But at the same time, it's always fun to see these drivers come in. I think the previous 91 driver was Elio in the Daytona 500 last year, right? So it's the first time we've had
was
that
the
entry
last one,
in.
yeah. And obviously SVG, well, no, because SVG was full-time, so.
He's in the 88 before he moved over to the 97.
Yes. Anyway, speaking of celebrities, if you want to call K-Mag a celebrity, Legacy Motor Club will be lining up additional investors, it appears, as Jimmy Johnson told Sports Business Journal this week that his team and the Nighthead Capital Management, bringing in Darius Rucker has already been announced, but there's going to be a formal announcement of all 27 celebrity investors. What do you think of this kind of interesting announcement from Legacy Motor Club and Jimmy Johnson?
I'm excited to see it. Trey, did you see the video of Darius inside, or not inside, but like out of the hauler
performing? Yeah, it was great. Concert. I mean, not bad.
I mean, I love that these new teams are taking their own direction and not just following the traditional approach. Like 2311, obviously you have Michael Jordan and his involvement, and that speaks for itself, I feel like. And then Trackhouse, while I guess Pitbull is not there anymore, like they came in and you talk about their hospitality area looks, if you've been in the garage area, their hospitality outside of their haulers looked very different. They kind of changed the game with some of the LED stuff that they were doing and some of the amenities that they were providing. And then this is now an opportunity for another team, Legacy Motor Club. And they're kind of reminding me in some ways of maybe where Spire Motorsports was a few years ago. Now Legacy comes from a very different background. Whenever Spire came in, they were just starting out to kind of collect that check as one of those charter teams and everything. And it was more your start and park model. Got lucky with that Justin Haley win, but I believe I remember hearing about, like, whenever they had started out, that it was their goal to be competitive. And again, you think back to that unsponsored 77 car back in 2017 or 2018, whenever they first kind of started coming around, like, you're like, oh, like you didn't pay attention to them at all. And then now those drivers are a weekly storyline. Now there's also some litigation. I'm curious to see how that plays out and if that will end up having any bearing on, like, if they find, like, hey, this actually, they maybe got some things that they shouldn't have. But that's a whole different topic. That's a whole different conversation to follow along with. But Legacy, Jimmy Johnson, since he's gotten involved, it feels like he's been very, I'm trying to think of the word, not cautious, but he's been very intentional. That's the word of with the steps that he's taken to add Matt Kenseth, to add some of these bigger owners, and to bring some of these names in. And I mean, I don't know a ton about, like, Jimmy, like his business mind, but it seems like he's got something. He's got something planned. The hard thing with all these, like with the Cup Series, is these teams, like, it's so hard to get to the top and stay there. Like it's so crowded because, I mean, you expect Hendrick, Gibbs, Penske to be there every week. 2311's kind of taking over that role. But then you got other teams like Front Row with Zane Smith, your boy Trey. He's starting to get up there a little bit more and lead some laps, some of those things. And so all the Aspire Motorsports is another. So it's very crowded at the top. And I'll be interested to see if Jimmy can turn them into some contenders and get them on par with a 2311.
We will see that indeed. Well, someone who fell short on Sunday, well, by that point, it felt like it was Monday morning, was Christopher Bell, and he's our focus of the Soundbite of the week.
Well, Tony, what angered you at the end of the race? What did you take issue with?
What the hell do you think I was mad about? Dumb little runs us clear down to the infield. He wants to about everybody else, and he's the one that drives like a little. I'm going to bust his ass.
Thanks, Tony.
Thank you.
And short track racing.
It's time for the Soundbites of the week.
Christopher Bell, you're battling your Joe Gibbs Racing teammates, Chase Briscoe and Denny Hamlin there at the end in the closing laps. What more did you need right there, and what lines did you need to take, and what happened from your perspective back to battling with those guys?
I didn't need anything. My car was amazing. Had the right strategy, the right everything, and I did not win the race. I didn't do a good job of driving, and I got no one to blame but myself.
What's the challenge of racing not one but just two teammates there at the end, and you guys are so close, and it's just going into three, you're three wide.
Yeah, I mean it's just I don't know. It's I don't know. I mean it's fine. We all have really fast race cars right now, so it's going to come down to us a lot, and I just didn't get it done. That's all there's to it.
Anything you could have done differently?
Yeah, I needed to not let Denny get beside me on the restart. I was focused on getting clear into one, and I opened the door, and Denny got right inside of me, and then it was going to be, it was a drag race from there.
It seems like you're taking this one pretty hard. Why is this one hard?
Because I got there's nothing. Like there's nothing. There's nobody to blame. No circumstances. It was all completely in my hands, and I dropped the ball. So there's literally nobody that had anything to do with losing the race except me, and it sucks.
That was Christopher Bell talking to the media post-race. Caleb, the question is yours. Do you think Christopher Bell, with these, if he's not able to capitalize late, we saw it in the Coke 600, we saw it here in Nashville, it's going to cost him a championship down the line?
I think it would cost them a championship if that's a pattern that continues into those final 10 races. I think he's in a spot where he can finish high enough in the points with the reset. Now, I know that reset does matter. I'll be curious to see how much it matters. There's been talks about some of the simulations that they've run, and I won't get into those numbers, but I think people were looking at like top 3, top 5 are really your people who you expect to be contenders when that reset comes, and obviously being number 1 gives you a pretty big bonus compared to everybody else. But I mean, he's had the speed, and if he can put it together, like we saw, it's kind of, on one hand, like I do feel bad for Christopher because he's been so close to getting that win. He hasn't won since Bristol last year, and there's been a few opportunities. Last week, it was out of his control. I think if that race goes green, there's a very good chance he wins the Coke 600. But at the same time, at the start of the season last year, he rattled off 3 wins in a row, and we saw how Tyler Reddick started the season this year, and it's kind of like back when we had the chase with Tony Stewart, 2011. Like you rattle off some wins or some great finishes, like there is the level of preparation and just being up front, and you want to get those finishes that you deserve, and you want to win whenever your car is the best. But sometimes things kind of don't go your way like they have the last few weeks, but then who knows, that maybe Lady Luck will pay him back in those last 10 races. And again, that's when things really matter. Like Denny Hamlin, like everybody talks about how these late race restarts and overtimes have hurt Denny Hamlin, and he kind of got one back. This wasn't like officially an overtime restart, but it was a late race restart that in a race where he actually wasn't the best car. And so he was able to capitalize on that one. So I think I understand for those guys, especially those Toyota guys. I feel like Reddick, Bell, and even Briscoe to an extent, whenever they have race-winning cars and aren't able to get the job done, I feel like those are the guys that take it the hardest. Then again, I mean, I think any driver, if you dominate a race or feel like you have dominated a race, you're going to be disappointed if you don't win. So that being said, yeah, I think Bell, right now it's just kind of the mental aspect of it, but come September, October, November, those last 10 races, I think he'll be just fine as long as he doesn't have a summer slump or anything. Better knock on wood.
Better knock on wood indeed. We'll see if Christopher Bell can break through and get some wins, which would go a long way in helping him as he gears up for the chase. Well, let's wrap it up with one final thought and wave that checkered flag. Caleb Barnes.
It's going to be a drag race all the way back to the start-finish line. No caution. They're side by side, right to the line. Big crash. Here they come. Checkered flag.
The checkered flag is out, and it's time for the final thoughts.
Final thoughts. Anything you want to rant, rave, or review? Caleb Barnes, the floor is yours.
Well, this week's trending social media topic that kind of, feels like we talk about this every year, but again, just blew up this week after Denny Hamlin's comments and the late races, the length of races. And I don't think there's anything wrong with the length of races. The big one that everybody always goes to criticize is stage racing. And that's where I want people to be able to define their terms, because I love stage racing. I just don't love stage breaks. These races are very long, and I remember as a kid watching my favorite driver have a really good race, and I was like, oh, this is going to be great for him in the points. And then something happened at the end, got taken up by a lap car, had a blown engine, and they finished 25th or worse, and it was like a horrible points day. And I was like, that's not fair. Like, this dude dominated the race, led the most laps, was in for a great day, and then ended up having nothing to show for it. So I love stages. I love that we pay out points to the guys who are running well early in the race and in the middle of the race. I think it also incentivizes racing hard at those points. I just wish, I hope people, whenever they're talking about we need to get rid of stages, they're thinking about stage breaks, but would like to still keep stages themselves. And that is one thing that I'm worried about, that if NASCAR still sits on its feet for too long and just tries to keep the stage breaks, I feel like there might be enough pushback to where people just associate the two together and NASCAR does away with stages entirely. And I don't want that to happen. So NASCAR, if you're listening to me, and all, the poll and everything that I have sitting in my bedroom in Kentucky, please get rid of the stage breaks. I know we tried that and it was boring for the road courses, but for everywhere else, you think of that late stage 2 caution where there's some of the strategy, how cool it would be if different guys had the opportunity to stay out to get those stage points, but then they had to maybe break up their runs differently later in the race because they had to pit earlier, they were offset. That's great strategy talk, as opposed to knowing all right, halfway through this stage, we're going to pit because we know we're getting another caution here. I think getting rid of stage breaks, make sure you keep that in there, keep that in your mind. Stage breaks, not the stages themselves. Getting rid of those breaks would be great for helping shorten the race in most cases, and also still rewarding the drivers for, hey, you led a lot of laps, you were running well early on in the race, and if something happens late in the race, you still get something to show for it.
Well, Caleb's not married to that idea of stage breaks, and I'm getting married this weekend on Saturday to my beautiful bride, Storm. So I'm going to end with that. Shout out to my bride, Storm Durham, who has had to watch countless NASCAR races and IndyCar races, which she fell in love with David Malukas. So I'm going to end with a shout out to my beautiful bride, Storm, who, if you watched a couple of the watch parties, you've seen her join. So I'm going to end with a shout out. She just had her, as we record this on Wednesday, she had her last day of school today, or with the kids. So shout out to my beautiful bride, Storm. And that will do it for us. So for Caleb Barnes at Caleb Barnes _, for Chris Graham, who helped produce this, and for me at Trey Lyle VT, signing off on this episode of Bring the Heat.